The blade missed Commander Jake Holland's throat by less than an inch. He rolled sideways across the obsidian floor as the Zarn Empress lunged again, her crimson skin gleaming under the chamber's bioluminescent ceiling. Her wedding gown, woven from living metal threads, hissed as it moved with her predatory grace. "You're supposed to be dead already," Empress Caliph snarled, her triple-jointed legs carrying her in a wide arc around him. Jake grabbed a ceremonial pillar and hauled himself upright. Sweat poured down his face. His dress uniform was already torn at the shoulder where her first strike had landed. "Yeah, well, I didn't read that part of the treaty." The wedding chamber sealed behind them with a bone-deep thrum. No witnesses, no escape. Just human and Zarn, locked in what the galaxy called the blood marriage. Every species that had tried to forge peace with the Zarn Empire had sent their best. Every single male had died on the wedding night. Earth had drawn the shortest straw in galactic history. Caliph's eyes, all 6 of them, narrowed with something between confusion and rage. 47 warriors before you, Krillian berserkers, Thone juggernauts, even a Vex clone champion bred specifically for endurance. She flourished the blade, its edge flickering with molecular disruption fields. All of them failed before midnight. You're just human, weak, slow, fragile. Fragile? Jake wheezed out a laugh and dodged another slash. "Lady, I grew up in Detroit." The Empress moved like liquid mercury, faster than anything her size had a right to be. She stood 9 feet tall, her forearms ending in claws that could shred titanium. The blade in her primary hand was almost an afterthought. Jake had exactly 3 advantages. He was smaller, he'd wrestled in high school, and he was too stubborn to die before proving Earth wasn't the joke the galaxy thought it was. He feinted left, then dropped and swept low. Khalith's leg buckled just enough for him to scramble past her reach. His hand closed around a decorative torch mounted on the wall. He ripped it free and swung it in a wide arc, not to hit her, but to buy seconds. Clever, Khalith admitted. Her mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. But endurance is not cleverness. When your muscles fail, when your heart gives out, when your mind breaks from exhaustion, you will still die. They all do. The chronometer on the wall pulsed. 4 hours until dawn. Jake's lungs burned. His vision was already starting to blur at the edges, but he'd made a promise to the 2 billion people watching the live treaty feed. Earth's first chance at a real alliance, at protection from the Dominion fleets that had glassed 6 colonies already. All he had to do was survive until sunrise. "Then I guess," Jake said, tightening his grip on the torch, "we're gonna have a long night." Caliph smiled, revealing rows of crystalline teeth. She attacked again. The torch shattered against Khalith's armored forearm, spraying bioluminescent fluid across the chamber. Jake didn't wait to see the damage. He was already moving, using the scattered light as cover to dive behind a massive ceremonial brazier. "Running?" Khalith's voice echoed from multiple directions. The chamber's acoustics were designed to disorient. The Krillians fought for 2 hours before his spine snapped. "You've managed 30 minutes. Impressive for your kind, but running only delays the inevitable." Jake's mind raced. His instructors at the diplomatic corps had given him 3 days of prep, broad days to learn Zarn customs, political structure, and the fact that he was probably going to die horribly. What they hadn't mentioned was that the Empress could apparently move through shadows. A claw raked across his back, tearing through uniform fabric and skin. Jake bit down on the scream and threw himself forward into a roll. Blood, hot and slick, spread across his shoulder blades. Not deep. Painful, but not deep. He came up near the chamber's eastern wall, where wedding gifts from 100 worlds sat on display. A Vorthan gravity hammer, Quellan plasma spheres, dozens of weapons, all ceremonial, all supposedly decorative. Khalith emerged from the darkness, all 4 arms spread wide. "You're thinking about the gifts. Don't. They're sealed in stasis fields. Unbreakable." She tilted her head, studying him like a specimen. "Though I'm curious what you'd choose. The hammer? Too heavy. The spheres? You'd kill us both. Maybe I'm looking for the gift shop, Jake gasped. Want to get my mom a souvenir? Humor in the face of death. Khalith's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sound his cultural briefing had identified as genuine interest. The others begged, tried to bargain. One actually wept. Yeah? Jake edged along the wall, keeping the display pedestals between them. What did you do? I gave him what he wanted. A quick death. She blurred forward impossibly fast. Jake grabbed the nearest pedestal and shoved it into her path. The Vorthen hammer tumbled from its stasis field, the ancient technology failing with a sharp crack. The weapon hit the floor and activated, creating a localized gravity well that slammed Khalith sideways into the wall. Jake didn't hesitate. He ran. The chamber was enormous, designed to showcase Zarn architectural superiority. Soaring ceilings, impossible angles, gardens of crystalline plants that chimed as he sprinted past them. His boots found purchase on a spiral staircase that led to an observation platform. Behind him, the gravity hammer's field collapsed with a thunderous boom. Now you've made it interesting. Khalith's voice carried genuine excitement. The sound of her movement was like metal scraping stone. Close. Too close. Jake reached the platform and immediately realized his mistake. No exit. Just a balcony overlooking the chamber's central atrium, where the wedding ceremony had taken place 6 hours ago, where he'd stood in his dress blues and repeated vows in broken Zarn, while the Empress had looked at him with the same expression someone might give a particular entertaining insect. The chronometer pulsed. 3 hours, 22 minutes until dawn. Khalith appeared at the top of the stairs, not even breathing hard. Her wedding gown had shifted colors, now matching the deep purple of her battle rage. Trapped. How does it feel, knowing you've run out of room to run? Jake leaned against the railing, every muscle screaming. The cut on his back throbbed in time with his heartbeat. He was exhausted, bleeding, and completely out of clever ideas. But he was also thinking about something his grandfather had told him before the deployment. Old man had fought in the water wars, survived things that should have killed him a dozen times over. His advice: when you can't win by being stronger, win by being stranger than they expect. Jake looked at the Empress, then at the 60-foot drop behind him, then back at Khalith. You really think I'm trapped? He asked. Then he jumped backward off the balcony. Khalith's roar of surprise followed him down. The crystalline garden broke his fall. Sort of. Jake crashed through layers of chiming plants that shattered like glass, each impact slowing his descent just enough that when he hit the atrium floor, he didn't splatter. He did, however, crack at least 2 ribs and knock every molecule of air from his lungs. He lay there, gasping like a fish, staring up at the platform, where Khalith stood frozen in what he desperately hoped was shock. You jumped. Her voice carried across the chamber, flat with disbelief. You actually jumped? Jake rolled onto his side, coughing. Something wet in his chest suggested internal bleeding. But adrenaline was doing a fantastic job of making him not care. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Khalith vaulted over the railing. She didn't fall. She dove, controlling her descent with her forearms, catching protrusions in the wall, redirecting her momentum. She landed 20 feet from him, with predatory grace, her blade already drawn. The Thone Juggernaut tried to fight me with honor, she said, stalking forward. He died with honor. The Krillian tried to match my strength. He died strong. The Vex clone tried to outlast me with genetic modifications. He died, modified. She stopped, looming over him. What are you trying to do, human? What is your strategy? Die stupidly? Jake levered himself upright, using a broken crystal shard as support. His ribs screamed. His back burned. His vision kept trying to tunnel. But he was still alive, and that was making Khalith angry in a very specific way. Confused angry. No strategy, Jake said honestly. Just don't want to die. They all wanted to live. Yeah, but they were warriors. Champions. Genetically perfect whatever. Jake spat blood. Me? I'm just a guy from Detroit who got picked because I tested high on the too dumb to quit psychological profile. Khalith's eyes narrowed, all 6 of them processing this information. Earth sent someone unremarkable? Earth sent someone expendable. Jake started moving again, each step agony, angling toward the chamber's southern section. Big difference. The Empress followed, but slower now, watching. The blood marriage is sacred. Species send their finest to prove their worth. You're saying Earth considers you trash? I'm saying Earth is desperate. Jake's hand found the wall, and he used it to stay upright. The Dominion burned 6 colonies, killed millions. We need allies, and the only one offering is you. So yeah, they sent me. Lieutenant Jake Holland, middling grades at the academy, decent pilot, unremarkable service record. And you know what the worst part is? He turned to face her, swaying. I volunteered. Kyla stopped. Her mandibles went completely still. The treaty said Earth had to send someone for the blood marriage. Everyone knew it was a death sentence, but Earth also knew that if nobody went, the Czarn wouldn't even consider the alliance. So I stepped up because somebody had to, and because maybe, just maybe, I could last long enough to show Earth isn't completely worthless. You volunteered to die. I volunteered to try not to. The chronometer pulsed. 2 hours, 41 minutes until dawn. Khalith's blade lowered just slightly. The others had advantages. Augmentations, pre-training, genetic superiority. What do you have that they didn't? Jake thought about it, really thought about it. What did he have? Not strength, not speed, not endurance, just stubbornness and a lifetime of being underestimated. And then it clicked. They came here to win, Jake said quietly. I came here to survive. That's the difference. They fought you like an opponent. I'm treating you like a natural disaster. You don't beat a hurricane. You just outlast it. Something shifted in Khalith's expression. Her blade rose again, but different now. Not hunting, testing. Show me, she commanded. She attacked with renewed fury, all 4 arms striking in patterns designed to overwhelm. Jake didn't try to block, didn't try to counter. He evaded, barely. Using every dirty trick he'd ever learned, he threw crystal shards to obscure her vision. He kicked up dust from shattered plants. When she cornered him near the western alcove, he grabbed a ceremonial banner and threw it over her head, then ran while she tore through it. It bought him seconds. Just seconds. But seconds were life. You fight like prey, Khalith said, pursuing him through the atrium. Prey survives, Jake shot back. Prey gets eaten eventually. Eventually isn't now. And somehow, impossibly, he kept moving. The chamber's environmental systems chose that moment to shift into night cycle. Temperature dropped 15 degrees in seconds. Bioluminescent panels dimmed to simulate Czarn midnight. The sudden change hit Jake like a physical blow. His sweat-soaked uniform suddenly ice-cold against shredded skin. Khalith smiled in the darkness. Her eyes adapted instantly. Glowing faint amber. Now you're truly disadvantaged. I can see perfectly. You're blind. She was right. Jake could barely make out shapes in the dim light, but he'd noticed something during his frantic flight through the chamber. The crystalline garden plants chimed when anything moved near them. Natural proximity alarms. He dove into the thickest cluster of intact crystals and went absolutely still. The chiming stopped. Khalith's footsteps echoed through the atrium, slow and deliberate. Hiding, the Vex clone tried that. I found him by his heartbeat. Your human heart pounds so loud I could track it from across the chamber. Jake pressed his hand against his chest, trying to will his pulse slower. It didn't work. His heart hammered against his ribs like it was trying to escape his body. Blood loss and exhaustion made controlling it impossible. There, Khalith whispered. Crystal exploded around him as she struck. Jake rolled left, and the plants sang his position. He scrambled right, and they sang again. Every movement betrayed him. A claw caught his leg, tearing through fabric and muscle. Jake finally screamed, the pain too intense to contain. He kicked blindly with his other foot and felt it connect with something solid. Khalith grunted, more surprised than hurt. He crawled away, leaving a blood trail, no longer caring about stealth. His leg was on fire. The cut wasn't arterial, but it was deep enough that his boot was filling with blood. 1 hour, 53 minutes. Khalith announced, her voice coming from everywhere and nowhere. "You've outlasted the Krylian. Remarkable. But your body is failing. I can smell the blood. Hear your breathing deteriorate. You're going into shock." She was right again. Jake's hands were shaking uncontrollably. His thoughts kept scattering, losing focus. Classic shock symptoms from his combat medic training. He needed to treat the wounds, control the bleeding, but stopping meant dying. So he kept crawling. His hand found something cold and smooth, metal. He traced its shape in the darkness, recognizing it from his brief tour of the chamber before the ceremony. An ancient Zarn war memorial, a statue of some long-dead warrior holding a spear that pointed toward the ceiling. The spear was real, ceremonial, but real. Jake gripped the statue's base and hauled himself upright. His wounded leg buckled immediately. He caught himself on the spear shaft, using it as a crutch. The weapon was 12 feet long, weighted for someone of Khalith's size and strength. For Jake, it was impossibly heavy. He heard her approach, deliberate footsteps on stone. "Using my ancestors' weapon?" Khalith emerged from the shadows, blade sheathed, all four arms relaxed. General Kavex the Unyielding. He fought the Dominion's predecessor empire for 40 years, never surrendered, never retreated. Died standing with that very spear through his chest. "Sounds like my kind of guy," Jake muttered. "He would have killed you in seconds." Khalith moved closer, stopping just outside spear range. "But he would have respected what you're doing. This refusal to accept defeat. It's very Zarn. I'm not Zarn. I'm human. Yes, you are." She tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that felt different from before. Not predatory. Curious. "Do you know why the blood marriage exists, human?" Jake leaned heavily on the spear. "To kill people? To find strength." Khalith began circling, staying just out of range. "The Zarn Empire spans 200 worlds. We've conquered species with better technology, stronger bodies, superior numbers. But we learned something over millennia. Technology fails, bodies break, numbers mean nothing without will. The blood marriage tests will, not strength, not skill. Pure, unbreakable will to survive. Great test. Really humane. We don't value humane. We value resilience." She stopped circling. 47 warriors failed. 47 species proved they would break under pressure. Their alliances meant nothing because when the Dominion comes, when the wars turn desperate, they would crumble. The chronometer pulsed. 1 hour, 19 minutes until dawn. Jake's vision was graying at the edges. His leg was numb below the knee, which was either good or catastrophically bad. The spear felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "So what happens if I make it to dawn?" he asked. "Then Earth gets its alliance. Full military support. Protected trade routes. Shared technology." Khalith's eyes gleamed. "And I get something I haven't had in 7 years of blood marriages." "What's that?" "A husband who survived." Jake blinked. "Wait, we're actually married? I thought this was just symbolic." "The ceremony was real. The vows binding. If you survive until dawn, you become my consort. First human in Zarn history to hold that position." Her mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Did you not read the treaty?" "I skimmed it." Khalith laughed, a sound like grinding stones that somehow carried genuine warmth. "You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Can it be both?" She moved then, not attacking, but closing the distance. Jake raised the spear defensively, but his arms were shaking too hard to control it. Khalith simply pushed it aside with one hand. "1 hour left," she said softly. "I could kill you now. End this. Report that Earth failed like all the others. But you won't." "No." Her blade slid from its sheath. "Because you've earned the right to finish this properly. On your feet. Fighting." Jake looked at the blade, then at Khalith, then at the chronometer counting down his life. "Then let's finish it," he said, and somehow he raised the spear. The spear was impossibly heavy. Jake's arms screamed as he held it in a defensive stance, the point wavering in the air between them. Blood dripped from his leg, pattering on the stone floor in a rhythm that matched his failing heartbeat. Khalith struck. The blade came in low, aimed for his already wounded leg. Jake twisted, using the spear shaft to deflect rather than block. The impact sent vibrations up his arms that felt like lightning. He gave ground, nearly fell, caught himself. "Better," Caliph said. "You're learning." She pressed forward, all four arms working in concert. Two struck high, two low, creating patterns no human opponent could match. Jake stopped trying to predict and started reacting on pure instinct. Duck. Pivot. Use the spear's length to maintain distance when she closed in anyway. He slammed the butt of the spear into the ground and vaulted sideways, his wounded leg nearly giving out on landing. "The Thone Juggernaut had strength I couldn't match," Caliph said conversationally, her attacks never slowing. "So I outlasted him. The Krillian had rage that could have shattered walls. So I wore him down. The Vex clone had programming that anticipated every strike. So I became unpredictable." Jake blocked another combination, his hands going numb from the impacts. "What's your point? You have nothing I can't match. No advantage, no edge, just will." Her blade flickered past his guard, opening a shallow cut across his ribs. "So I should be able to break you. But I can't." "Why? Because I'm too stupid to know when to quit?" "No." Caliph's voice carried something like respect. "Because you already accepted death before you entered this chamber. You mourned yourself, made peace with the end. Everything since has been borrowed time, and borrowed time has no fear attached." She was right, and the realization hit Jake harder than any physical blow. He had accepted death, written letters to his family, said goodbye to Earth. Stepped into this chamber already considering himself dead. Everything after was just proving he could die on his feet. The chronometer pulsed. 47 minutes until dawn. Jake's vision tunneled. His hands could barely feel the spear anymore. His wounded leg was dead weight, and the new cut across his ribs burned with every breath. He was running on empty, and they both knew it. Khalith's attacks intensified. She moved like a storm, blade-weaving patterns that left after-images in Jake's failing vision. He deflected. One strike, two missed the third. The blade cut deep into his shoulder and the spear fell from nerveless fingers. Jake dropped to his knees. "It ends," Khalith said, raising her blade for the final strike. Jake's hand closed around a shard of broken crystal from the shattered garden. He drove it upward with everything he had left. The makeshift weapon caught Khalith across her primary arm, cutting through the wedding gown's living metal and drawing purple blood. She jerked back, more shocked than hurt, staring at the wound. Then she started laughing. "You stabbed me," she said, delight and disbelief mixing in her voice. "In 7 years, across 47 warriors, not one drew my blood. And you, half dead and unarmed, you stabbed me with debris." Jake swayed on his knees, unable to stand. "Sorry about the dread." Khalith looked at the torn gown, at the blood staining the living metal, then back at Jake. Her laughter grew louder, echoing through the chamber. She lowered her blade. "The dress repairs itself," she said, "but the memory doesn't. You've given me something I'll carry forever, human. A scar from the night I met someone too stubborn to die properly." She offered him a hand. 2 hands. All 4 hands. Jake stared at them, confused. "What are you doing? Helping you stand?" "We have 43 minutes left. You'll spend them on your feet or not at all. I thought you had to kill me. I have to fight you until dawn. Nothing in the traditions says you have to fight back effectively." Her mandibles clicked in amusement. "And technically you are fighting back. Terribly." "But you're fighting." Jake took her hands. She pulled him upright with ease, supporting his weight when his leg refused to hold him. The world spun. His consciousness flickered like a dying light. "Stay awake," Khalith commanded. "You don't survive this long just to pass out in the final stretch." "Trying," Jake mumbled. "Not sure my body got the memo." She walked him across the chamber, half carrying him, her blade still in one hand but no longer threatening. They moved through the space where he'd run, hidden, bled, past the shattered crystals, past the fallen spear, past the evidence of his desperate survival. The chronometer pulsed. 31 minutes until dawn. "Tell me about Detroit," Khalith said suddenly. Jake's brain struggled to process the question. What? You mentioned it earlier. Your city. Tell me about it. Why? Because you need to stay conscious, and talking helps, so talk. Tell me about the place that made someone this aggravatingly persistent. So Jake talked, rambling, barely coherent, about a city that had burned and rebuilt, that had died economically and clawed its way back, that had produced people who knew how to take a beating and keep standing. He talked about his grandfather's stories, about neighborhoods that looked like war zones but still had families barbecuing on weekends, about learning that survival wasn't about being the strongest but about being the last one standing when everything else fell apart. Khalith listened, supporting him, occasionally asking questions, keeping him conscious through sheer force of conversation. The chronometer pulsed. 14 minutes until dawn. Jake's words were slurring together, barely intelligible. The chamber wavered in his vision, multiple Khaliths overlapping in his fading awareness. His body had moved past pain into a distant numbness that medical training told him was very, very bad. Still with me, human? Khalith's voice cut through the fog. Maybe, Jake whispered. 50-50 at best. Not good enough. You don't get to drift away now. She adjusted her grip, practically carrying him. 9 minutes. That's all that remains between you and something no one thought possible. The chronometer seemed to mock him with each pulse. 8 minutes. An eternity when every second required conscious effort just to keep breathing. Khalith moved them toward the chamber's eastern wall, where dawn would break first through the crystalline viewing panels. Already, the faintest hint of purple-gray light was bleeding into the darkness. Do you know what happens if you fail now? She asked. If you collapse? If your heart stops before dawn? Jake tried to shake his head, but the movement made the world tilt dangerously. Let me guess. Still counts as failure? Worse. It means every species watching this broadcast sees humanity get within minutes of success and fall short. It becomes the story. Earth almost made it. Almost is worse than never trying. Great pep talk, Jake managed. Really motivating. I'm not trying to motivate you. I'm trying to make you angry. Khalith's mandibles clicked sharply, because anger keeps mammals conscious when everything else fails. So get angry, Lieutenant Holland. Rage at how unfair this is. Rage at being chosen as expendable. Rage at me for putting you through this. But Jake couldn't find anger. He was too tired, too broken, too far past the point where emotions meant anything. His body was shutting down system by system, and anger required energy he simply didn't have. Can't, he breathed. Not angry, just tired. Khalith stopped walking. For a moment, Jake thought she was giving up on him, letting him collapse. Instead, she shifted her grip and did something he never expected. She told him the truth. 47 warriors died in this chamber, she said quietly. 47 times I watched someone realize they couldn't win. 47 times I saw the exact moment hope died in their eyes. And 47 times I killed them anyway, because tradition demanded it. Her voice carried weight Jake had never heard before. Do you know what that does? Killing people who came seeking alliance? Who came hoping for peace? It hollows you out. Makes you wonder if strength is just another word for cruelty. Jake's fading consciousness latched onto her words, processing through the haze. 7 years I've waited, Khalith continued. 7 years I've prayed to gods I stopped believing in that someone would survive. That someone would prove the blood marriage wasn't just ritual murder dressed in tradition. That maybe, possibly, strength could mean something more than killing. She turned him to face the viewing panels, where dawn's light was growing stronger. You're that someone, Jake Holland. You're the proof that will doesn't require superiority, that survival doesn't demand perfection, that sometimes the strongest thing is simply refusing to quit when quitting would be easier. The chronometer pulsed. 4 minutes until dawn. Jake's knees buckled. Khalith caught him, lowered him carefully to the ground, supporting his back against the wall. His vision was almost gone now. Just shadows and that growing purple-gray light. I can't stand, he admitted, the words barely audible. Then sit. The tradition says you must survive until dawn. It doesn't specify the position. Khalith settled beside him, one hand still supporting his shoulders. 3 minutes, human. Can you manage 3 minutes? Could he? Jake honestly didn't know. His heartbeat was irregular, stuttering. His breathing shallow. Every autonomic system was failing. His body deciding that consciousness was optional. He thought about Earth. About the 2 billion people watching this feed, waiting to see if their expendable lieutenant could buy them a future. About the colonies already burning. The millions already dead. The millions more who would die if the Dominion kept advancing unchecked. 3 minutes to save a species. No pressure. Talk to me, he gasped. Keep me here. So Khalith talked. She told him about the Zarn Empire's history, about wars fought and won, about the cost of conquest. She told him about the blood marriage's origins, created centuries ago when the Empire nearly fell to internal division because alliances meant nothing without tested bonds. She told him about General Kavex, who stood against impossible odds for 40 years. He would have liked you, she said. Stubborn old warrior would have recognized a kindred spirit. The chronometer pulsed. 90 seconds until dawn. Jake's eyes were closed. He couldn't remember closing them. Couldn't remember if he'd ever opened them. Everything was distant, disconnected, like watching himself from somewhere far away. Open your eyes, Jake. Khalith's voice was sharp, commanding. You don't get to miss this. He tried. His eyelids felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds each. But he managed, barely, and saw the viewing panels flooding with light. True dawn, breaking across the Zarn homeworld, painting everything in shades of purple and gold. 60 seconds, Khalith whispered. Jake's heart stuttered, skipped, struggled to find rhythm. 45 seconds. His breathing stopped, then started again, shallow and weak. 30 seconds. The world was fading, color bleeding away into gray. 15 seconds. Stay with me, human. Stay. Jake felt himself slipping away, consciousness unraveling like thread. 10, 9, 8. Everything went dark. Jake woke to the sound of cheering, not in the chamber, through the walls, echoing from somewhere distant. Thousands of voices, maybe millions, celebrating something he couldn't quite process through the fog in his head. He was lying on something soft. Medical equipment hummed nearby. The acrid smell of Zarn antiseptic burned his nostrils. He's awake, someone said. A medic judging by the clinical tone. Jake forced his eyes open. White ceiling, medical bay. Khalith standing beside the bed, her wedding gown replaced by formal military armor, watching him with an expression he couldn't read. Did I make it? His voice came out as a croak. You collapsed at 7 seconds before dawn, Khalith said. Your heart stopped at 4 seconds. The medical team revived you at 2 seconds after dawn broke. Jake's chest tightened, so I failed. No. Khalith's mandibles spread and what he'd learned was a genuine smile. The tradition requires survival until dawn, not consciousness. Your heart restarted. You lived. By Zarn law and custom, you succeeded. The cheering made sense now. Jake tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Every nerve ending in his body screamed protest. Khalith gently pushed him back down. Don't move. You have 17 fractures, 3 cracked ribs, severe blood loss, and tissue damage across 40% of your body. The medics say you'll recover fully in 3 weeks with our technology. She paused. They also say you should be dead. Medically speaking, you died twice during the night. Your body just refused to accept it. Stubborn, Jake whispered. Impossibly stubborn. Khalith pulled up a chair, settling beside the bed. The treaty is ratified. Earth has full alliance status. Zarn military fleets are already moving to reinforce your colony borders. The Dominion will think twice before advancing further. Good. That's good. Jake closed his eyes, relief flooding through him. He'd done it. Earth was safe. Or safer, at least. Worth it. All of it was worth it. There's one complication, Khalith added. Jake opened one eye. What complication? You're actually married to me now. That part wasn't symbolic. As my consort, you hold significant political power in the Empire. The Council is already debating what it means to have a human in the Imperial family. Her expression softened slightly. I can arrange an annulment if you wish. Given the circumstances, no one would question it. Jake considered this. Considered going home to Earth, to Detroit, to a normal life. Considered never seeing another alien species or fighting for his life in ritual combat. Then he thought about Kalith's voice in the darkness, keeping him conscious. Thought about her honesty, her respect, the way she'd supported him through those final minutes. Thought about 47 dead warriors and one stubborn human who'd somehow changed everything. What happens if I stay? He asked. You become the first human consort in Zarn history. You help shape policy between our species. You live on a world where everything is designed to kill softer species. Kalith's eyes studied him carefully. And you spend your life with someone who will never stop testing your limits, because that's what Zarn do with those we respect. Sounds terrible, Jake said. It does, doesn't it? Sign me up. Kalith's mandibles clicked in surprised amusement. You're certain? Earth would welcome you as a hero. Parades. Recognition, a peaceful life. Yeah, but peaceful sounds boring after last night. Jake managed a weak grin. Besides, someone's got to show the galaxy that humans don't quit. Might as well be me. You're absolutely insane. You married me anyway. Kalith laughed, that grinding stones sound that somehow felt warm. She reached out, taking his hand gently in one of hers. The Empire's going to hate you. You're weak, small, fragile, everything Zarn culture despises. Good thing I'm also too stubborn to care what they think. Yes, good thing. She stood, still holding his hand. Rest now. Heal. In 3 weeks, we have a formal presentation to the Council. They'll want to meet the human who survived the blood marriage. Looking forward to it, Jake lied. Kalith saw through it immediately but smiled anyway. She released his hand and moved toward the door, then paused. Jake Holland? Yeah? Thank you for not dying. It would have been extremely inconvenient politically. That's definitely the only reason you're glad I survived. Her mandibles clicked in what might have been embarrassment. Rest, human. That's an order from your Empress. Yes, ma'am. She left. Jake lay in the medical bay, listening to distant celebrations, feeling every injury, every bruise, every cut. His body was destroyed. His future was completely insane. He'd just married an alien empress who'd spent 8 hours trying to kill him, and somehow, impossibly, he was exactly where he wanted to be. Outside the viewing window, dawn continued breaking across the Zarn homeworld. Purple and gold light painting everything in colors Earth had never seen. Jake closed his eyes and slept, dreaming of home and the stars beyond it, and the stubborn refusal to quit that had carried him through the longest night of his life into a dawn no one thought he'd see. Earth's first survivor. Humanity's proof. The man too